Every year, somewhere in the world, a military pilot has roughly 2.5 seconds to live or die. The aircraft is finished, the controls are gone, the ground is coming, and the only thing between that pilot and a closed coffin is a device built by a company most people have never heard of, a company that has never manufactured a single production aircraft. 2.5 seconds. That is how long a modern ejection seat takes to fire, clear the cockpit, stabilize, deploy a parachute, and deliver a human being into breathable air with a functioning canopy overhead. Every fraction of those 2.5 seconds was engineered by a man whose best friend perished because the device did not yet exist. Saturday, the 12th of September, 1942, RAF Wing, Buckinghamshire. Captain Valentine Henry Baker, decorated Great War veteran, former flying instructor to the Prince of Wales, co-founder of Martin Baker Aircraft Company, climbed into the cockpit of the MB-3 prototype. James Martin watched from the ground. Baker opened the throttle of a Napier Sabre 2-engine, 24 cylinders, 2,020 horsepower. Martin had not wanted this engine. The Air Ministry had forced the substitution when the Rolls-Royce Griffon proved unavailable. Martin had also objected to RAF Wing as a test site. Surrounded by small fields and hedgerows, it offered nowhere safe to land in an emergency. The ministry overruled him on both counts. Baker cleared 100 feet. Then the engine seized, a sleeve drive crank fractured, a failure notorious in early Sabres. Total instantaneous power loss. He attempted a forced landing. The wingtip caught a tree stump. The aircraft cartwheeled through a hedgerow into a stack of freshly threshed straw and burst into flames. Valentine Baker was 54. He had survived a bullet to the neck at Gallipoli. That bullet stayed lodged near his spinal column for the rest of his life, only to be trapped in a burning cockpit he could not leave quickly enough. James Martin fell to the ground. The sole prototype was destroyed. No production order ever came, but something shifted in Martin that afternoon. From that day forward, he thought of almost nothing except how to get a pilot out of a doomed aircraft alive. He carried a loose-leaf notebook for the rest of his life, recording the name and story of every pilot saved by the device he was about to build. He prized it above every award, every honor, every piece of machinery he ever created. The irony is plain. An ejection seat, even a crude early one, could almost certainly have saved Baker. He was airborne. He was conscious. He had simply no way out. Martin spent the next 39 years solving that problem. The solution works in 2.5 seconds. It has saved nearly 8,000 lives, and it began with one man watching his closest friend burn. James Martin was born on the 11th of September, 1893, at a place called Killinchy in the Woods, near Crossgar, County Down, in what was then Ireland. His family were Presbyterian farmers, modest, rural Ulster Scots stock. His father, Thomas Martin, worked roughly 30 acres and had a reputation locally as an inventor. His mother was Sarah Coulter. There was one older sister, Jane. Thomas Martin died of tuberculosis on the 18th of August, 1895. James was not yet 2 years old. The boy grew up on the farm under the care of his grandmother and mother. And by the 1911 census, he was still at Killinchy Woods, living with his mother and his Aunt Georgina. There was no money for luxuries. There was barely money for necessities. His mother, recognizing something unusual in the boy, took him to see Professor Frederick Fitzpatrick of Civil Engineering at Queen's University, Belfast. The visit was meant to open doors. Instead, it closed them on the university's side. James Martin looked at the lecture halls, looked at the examination schedules, and decided he wanted nothing to do with either. He preferred to build things with his hands. The company he would later found recorded it plainly. He had a great desire to invent and make things, and scorning conventional education, By dint of hard work and continuous study, he was an accomplished engineer long before the age of 21. This was not teenage arrogance. It was a deliberate choice that would define his entire career. Martin trusted his own hands over other people's theories. He gained practical engineering skills working in Belfast. No specific apprenticeship has ever been identified. And as a teenager, he designed, built and sold machines from his father's old workshop. The shed, the tools, the problem, the solution. That was his university. In 1919, aged 26, Martin left Ireland and set up a small engineering business in Acton, West London, close to his sister, Jane, and her husband, Edwin Burrell. The operation was modest to the point of absurdity. I shed 3 employees and Martin himself, filling every role simultaneously. He was the inventor, the draftsman, the toolmaker, the fitter, the assembler, the salesman, and the delivery driver. He once drove a specialized vehicle through the night to Manchester because hiring a driver would have cost money he didn't have. Through the early 20s, the business grew. Martin filed a patent for a vehicle body frame design in 1923, granted in 1925. He began building cars attracted by the mechanical purity of motor racing. But cars were a stepping stone. By the late 20s, inspired by the machines he saw overhead, Martin started taking flying lessons, and his instructor happened to be a man named Captain Valentine Baker. Baker was born on the 24th of August, 1888 in Llanfair, Wales. He had served with the Royal Flying Corps during the Great War, fought at Gallipoli, and carried a Turkish bullet lodged near his spinal column for the rest of his life. After the war, he built a reputation as one of the finest flight instructors in Britain, running a school at Heston Aerodrome that attracted some remarkable pupils, the Prince of Wales among them, and the record-breaking aviator Amy Johnson. Baker held the Military Cross and the Air Force Cross. He was precise, methodical, and deeply practical, qualities that matched Martin's own temperament exactly. The two men recognized something in each other almost immediately. Baker understood aeroplanes from the cockpit. Martin understood them from the workshop floor. One could feel what was wrong with a machine at 3,000 feet. The other could fix it on the ground before breakfast. Together they could build aircraft that neither could have managed alone. In 1929, Martin established Martin's Aircraft Works at Higher Denham, Buckinghamshire, a site the company still occupies today, nearly a century later. On the 17th of August 1934, the firm was formally reconstituted as Martin Baker Aircraft Company Limited, with 3 directors, James Martin, Captain Valentine Baker, and Francis, a wealthy backer who provided the capital that Martin's talent alone could not generate. The workforce numbered roughly 40. The ambition was considerably larger. Martin married Muriel May Haynes, a nurse, on the 28th of February, 1942, just months before Baker's death would reshape everything. They had 4 children, twin sons John and James, and 2 daughters Jane and Anne. He lived at Southlands Manor in Denham, within sight of the factory, for the rest of his life. The distance between home and work was measured in hundreds of yards. He preferred it that way. To understand why every aircraft James Martin ever designed was rejected, you need to understand a system called the Ring. From roughly 1920 onward, the Air Ministry maintained a closed circle of approved design tenderers: Hawker, Supermarine, Bristol, Gloucester, de Havilland, and a handful of others. These were firms with hundreds or thousands of employees, established production lines, and long relationships with procurement officials. Martin Baker, with about 40 people at a single site in Buckinghamshire, was permanently outside this circle. The system was not built to accommodate a brilliant outsider who refused to play by its rules. The MB-1 flew first in the spring of 1935 from RAF Northolt, a clean 2-seat touring monoplane. never intended for military use. Baker served as test pilot. The sole prototype burned in a hangar fire at Denham in 1938. The MB-2 was Martin's first fighter. Built as a private venture in response to an Air Ministry specification from 1934, it first flew on the 3rd of August, 1938, with Baker at the controls. A Napier Dagger 3-engine, 805 brake horsepower, 304 miles per hour. Respectable, not decisive. Where the MB-2 shone was in Martin's obsession with serviceability. 2 men could remove all 8 machine guns in under 5 minutes. The Hurricane took 60 minutes for the same job. The Spitfire took 70. These were not trivial differences. In wartime, turnaround speed on a dispersal field could mean the difference between a squadron getting airborne for a second sortie and sitting useless on the ground. But the MB-2 had a fixed undercarriage, which dated the design badly. The Hurricane and Spitfire were already entering production. The MB-2 was tested, found to have excellent handling, and quietly scrapped in 1944. The MB-3 was the aircraft that ended Valentine Baker's life and the most formidable single-engine fighter of its moment. 3 prototypes were ordered in June 1939 under a specification written specifically for the Martin Baker design, which means Martin did have advocates within the system. 6 20mm Hispano cannons, the heaviest armament on any single-engine fighter in existence. 2,020 horsepower from the Napier Sabre II, 415 miles per hour at 20,000 feet. The ministry told Martin Baker by late 1941 that no production order would be placed before the aircraft even flew. Then came September, and Baker was gone. Martin went back to the drawing board and built something better. The MB-5 was the masterpiece. Evolved from the second MB-3 airframe, it was powered by the Rolls-Royce Griffon 83, the bigger, angrier descendant of the Merlin engine we covered in our film about the power plant that made the Spitfire unstoppable. 2,340 horsepower, driving 6-blade contra-rotating propellers built by de Havilland. It first flew on the 23rd of May, 1944, at RAF Harwell, piloted by Brian Greenstead of the Ratoll Propeller Company, because Baker was gone and had never been replaced. In a single day, the MB-5 was disassembled at Denham, loaded onto lorries, trucked to Harwell, reassembled in just over an hour, and test flown that afternoon. Try asking Hawker or Supermarine to do that with a Tempest or a Spiteful. Maximum speed, 460 miles per hour at 20,000 feet, 395 at sea level. Service ceiling, 40,000 feet. Range, roughly 1,100 miles, more than double any contemporary British fighter. Captain Eric Brown, the Royal Navy test pilot who flew 487 aircraft types, a world record, called it outstanding and said he felt so at home the first time he climbed in that he might already have flown hundreds of hours in it. He paid that compliment to no other advanced aircraft. Squadron leader Janusz Zurakowski, the Polish aerobatic ace, was blunter. The best aeroplane he had ever flown. The Aeroplane and Armament Experimental Establishment at Boscombe Down issued a report in 1946 using language that was, for a government body, almost emotional. The general design and layout of the Martin Baker 5 is excellent and is definitely better from the engineering and maintenance aspect than any other similar type of aircraft. And the RAF rejected it. The reasons were real, even if the outcome felt unjust. Timing. The jet age was arriving, and the Gloucester Meteor represented the future. Martin's own stubbornness. He had ignored deadlines and made changes as he saw fit, accumulating only about 40 flight hours in 18 months. Scale solves mass production would have required subcontracting to the very firms the MB-5 was meant to compete against. Bad luck. At a display before Prime Minister Churchill and the air staff in October 1945, the Griffon engine failed. Greenstead saved the aircraft with an emergency landing, but the political damage was devastating. And existing alternatives, the Spitfire 14, the Tempest 5, the de Havilland Hornet were in service or advanced development. The MB-5 was better in several respects, but not by a margin that justified disrupting established production during a war. One thing should be said plainly. The MB-5's published performance figures were obtained without armament, armor, or full combat equipment. Adding 4 cannons with 800 rounds, pilot armor, and combat gear would have reduced performance significantly. The Spitfire 14, while slightly slower, at the top end had a superior rate of climb. Brown himself noted that the MB-5's lateral handling still needed improvement. The aircraft was exceptional. It was not flawless. The sole MB-5 ended its days as a ground target at RAF Bircham Newton. In 1963, its battered remains were burned. No museum claimed it. The finest piston engine fighter most test pilots had ever flown became ash on a Norfolk airfield. Martin had been thinking about how to get a pilot out of a doomed aircraft since 1934, 8 years before Baker's death. But that afternoon at Stukely turned a theoretical interest into something closer to an obsession. From 1942 onward, every ounce of Martin's engineering talent bent toward a single problem. How do you remove a human being from a machine traveling at hundreds of miles per hour without killing him in the process? The physics are brutal. At 300 knots, the air outside the cockpit hits with the force of a hurricane. A pilot who simply stands up into that wind blast will have his arms and legs torn backward, his spine compressed, his face flayed, and that assumes he can stand up at all. At high G loading in a spinning or diving aircraft, the pilot may be pinned to his seat by forces several times his own body weight. The escape has to be fast, automatic, and violent enough to clear the aircraft's tail structure, but gentle enough not to snap the pilot's vertebrae. It is, in engineering terms, a contradiction. And Martin's genius was finding the narrow corridor between too much force and too little. The solution he arrived at works in approximately 2.5 seconds. Here is what happens inside that window. At time 0, the pilot pulls the firing handle, located between his thighs on the seat pan. In earlier Martin Baker seats, the handle was a face curtain above the pilot's head, which he pulled down over his face. That curtain served a double purpose. It fired the seat and it protected the pilot's face from wind blast. Modern seats use the seat pan handle with a separate neck protection device, an airbag that inflates around the helmet to brace the head and cervical spine. At the same instant, the canopy jettison system fires. 2 small rocket motors blast the canopy clear of the aircraft. 1/10 of a second later, the ejection gun fires. This is a pair of telescoping tubes loaded with explosive cartridges mounted between the seat and the cockpit floor. The charges fire in sequence, first one then the other, propelling the seat up guide rails and out of the cockpit. That sequential firing was one of Martin's most critical early innovations. A single massive charge would have produced a spike of acceleration high enough to crush vertebrae. Martin discovered this the hard way when a journalist from the Aeroplane magazine volunteered to try an early test rig and ended up in hospital with spinal injuries. 2 charges firing in rapid sequence spread the impulse across a longer time and reduced the peak G-force from lethal to survivable. As the seat clears the cockpit, a small stabilizing drogue parachute deploys automatically, and the underseat rocket motor ignites. This rocket is the key to what the industry calls zero-zero capability. the ability to eject safely at zero speed and zero altitude. A purely ballistic seat, powered only by the explosive gun, needs forward airspeed and height to give the parachute time to open. The rocket motor provides sustained thrust that pushes the seat upward even from a standing start on the ground. It burns for less than a second, but that fraction of a second is the difference between a functioning parachute and a body hitting concrete. By 7/10 of a second after handle pull, the rocket has burned out. The pilot is clear of the aircraft. A digital electronic sequencer, a small computer built into the seat, is now running continuously, measuring airspeed with accelerometers and altitude with barometric sensors. It calculates in real time the optimal moment to deploy the main parachute. At high altitude, it waits. A parachute opening at 40,000 feet in thin air would leave the pilot dangling for 20 minutes in temperatures of -50 degrees. At low altitude, it fires immediately. At roughly 1.5 seconds, the main parachute deploys from a container behind the pilot's head. By 2 seconds, man-seat separation occurs. The seat falls away and the pilot hangs under canopy, alone. At 2.5 seconds, the parachute is fully inflated and a seat survival kit containing a life raft and a rescue beacon deploys below the pilot on a lanyard. Typical G-forces during modern ejections reach 12 to 14 G. Older seats could hit 20 to 25 G. To put that in concrete terms, at 14 G, a pilot weighing 12 stone experiences a momentary force equivalent to 11,200 pounds pressing down through his spine. Ejection is not gentle. It compresses vertebrae, herniates discs, tears muscles. Many pilots who eject successfully never fly again, but they walk out of hospital. Without the seat, they would not have walked anywhere. The evolution from Martin's first experiments to today's fifth-generation seats traces a clear arc. The earliest marks, 1 through 5, were purely ballistic. Explosive cartridges did all the work. The pilot then had to manually separate from the seat and pull his own parachute ripcord. If he was unconscious, he was finished. The Mark II in the early 1950s introduced automatic parachute deployment and man-seat separation, critical for incapacitated crew. The Mark VII and Mark VIII added rocket assistance in the 1960s, enabling true zero-zero capability for the first time. The Mark IX was a landmark redesign. The face curtain was deleted in favor of a single seat pan handle with a gas-operated firing system. The Mark XIV, known as NASA's, the Navy Aircrew Common Ejection Seat, brought digital electronic sequencing with 5 separate operating modes. And the current US 16E, fitted to every F-35 Lightning II rolling off the line, incorporates mortar-deployed parachutes, continuous environmental sensing, rotatable rocket nozzles for pitch control, and passive arm restraints that prevent flailing injuries in the wind blast. Now step back from the ejection seat and consider the MB-5, the aircraft that never went to war but proved what Martin could build when left to his own devices. The Griffin 83 engine produced 2,340 horsepower at combat rating, driving 6-blade contra-rotating propellers. Contra-rotating means 2 sets of 3 blades spinning in opposite directions on the same shaft. This eliminates the enormous torque reaction that made the later Griffin-powered Spitfires notoriously tricky on takeoff. Pilots had to apply heavy rudder the moment the throttle opened, or the aircraft would swing violently to one side. The MB-5, by contrast, tracked straight. Test pilots consistently praised it. The fuselage was built on a steel tube framework with aluminium skin panels attached by Zeus fasteners, quarter-turn clips that any mechanic could open with a screwdriver. Every panel could be removed in seconds, exposing the engine, the systems, the wiring, the hydraulics. The Boscombe Down report noted that turnaround time appeared to be very low when compared with existing types. Wing area was 263 square feet, wingspan 35 feet, length 37 feet, 9 inches, empty weight 9,233 pounds. The undercarriage track, the distance between the two main wheels, was 15 feet, 2 inches, giving the aircraft ground handling stability that pilots coming from narrow-track Spitfires found almost luxurious. Martin designed every access panel, every fastener, every hinge with one question in mind: how quickly can a ground crew get this aircraft back in the air? The answer, according to the men who tested it, was faster than anything else they had seen. The same philosophy, obsessive, practical, impatient with complication, would define his ejection seats. The man who built an airframe around easy maintenance built an escape system around speed. 2.5 seconds, not a fraction wasted. In 1944, the Ministry of Aircraft Production formally asked Martin Baker to develop an aircrew escape system. The request was prompted partly by fatal accidents with the Gloucester Meteor prototype. Britain's first jet fighter was killing pilots who could not bail out at high speed. But Martin had been working the problem on his own time for years, and Baker's death had turned a side project into a crusade. His first idea was a spring-powered swinging arm mounted at the base of an aircraft's fin. A Bolton Paul Defiant was loaned for testing. The concept was mechanically sound, but operationally hopeless. The arm could not generate enough force to clear a pilot from a high-speed slipstream, and the mechanism added unacceptable weight to the tail. Martin abandoned it and settled on the approach that would define everything: explosive cartridges, propelling the seat upward on guide rails. A 16-foot test rig was built at Denham. On the 20th of January 1945, a 200-pound dummy was fired up the rails, the first ejection test in Martin Baker's history. 4 days later, on the 24th of January, a living man climbed into the seat. His name was Bernard Lynch, born on the 18th of February 1918 in Killeen near Dunshaughlin, County Meath, making both of the key figures in this story, Martin and Lynch, Irishmen. Lynch had joined the company in 1936 as an experimental fitter after working for the Irish Air Corps. He was described as a big, burly man with a straightforward attitude to risk, and he volunteered. Nobody ordered Bernard Lynch into that seat. He sat down in it because he believed in what Martin was building. On that January day in 1945, Lynch was fired to a height of 4 feet 8 inches. Not dramatic to look at, roughly the height of a child. But the forces involved were severe. In subsequent tests, charges were progressively increased until he reached 10 feet, at which point he reported considerable pain. This was expected. The human spine compresses under upward acceleration, and the early seats had no rocket motor to smooth the impulse, just raw explosive force. Nearly 200 ground rig tests followed on increasingly tall rigs. First a 26-foot rig, then a 65-foot rig. Lynch first used the 65-foot structure on the 17th of August 1945, reaching just over 26 feet. Each test carried a genuine possibility of spinal injury, internal bleeding, or worse. Lynch climbed into the seat every time. Airborne testing began on the 10th of May 1945, with a loaded seat fired from a stationary Bolton Paul Defiant on the ground. Dummy tests at progressively higher speeds followed, up to 300 miles per hour. Every dummy drop taught Martin something: how the wind blast deflected the seat, how the drogue behaved in turbulent air, how the harness held under dynamic loading. Then came the moment that mattered. On the 24th of July 1946, Bernard Lynch ejected from the rear cockpit of a modified Gloucester Meteor Mark III at 320 miles per hour and 8,000 feet over Calgrove Airfield in Oxfordshire. He pulled down the face curtain. The twin cartridge gun fired. He separated from the seat, pulled his parachute ripcord manually, and floated down to land within walking distance of a pub, where he enjoyed a welcome pint. He was the first person outside Germany to eject from an aircraft in flight. Lynch went on to perform roughly 17 in-flight test ejections. The company's own records give that figure, though some sources claim up to 30, possibly including ground tests. His final airborne test came on the 17th of March, 1954, St. Patrick's Day, fittingly enough for an Irishman, when he ejected from 30,000 feet. A problem with the seat separation mechanism forced him to use his emergency parachute. He landed badly and fractured his ankle, ending his career as a test subject. He received the British Empire Medal in the 1948 New Year Honours. Lynch passed away in 1986, aged 68. He never became famous. He should have. Lynch's successor was a man called William Hay, known universally as Doddy. On the 1st of April 1961, at Chalgrove, Hay performed the world's first live 0-0 ejection, launching from a completely stationary platform to approximately 300 feet. 2 months later, at the Paris Air Show at Le Bourget, he demonstrated the system for an international audience by ejecting from a lorry on the runway. The crowd was astonished. Hay was apparently unperturbed. The first real-world emergency use came on the 30th of May 1949. Test pilot Joe Lancaster was flying the Armstrong Whitworth AW-52, an experimental flying wing, when it entered severe pitch oscillations at 5,000 feet over Southam in Warwickshire. He ejected successfully and became the first British pilot to escape an aircraft using an ejection seat. He landed perhaps inevitably near a pub. Lancaster lived to celebrate his 100th birthday in 2019. He passed away on the 10th of August that year, proof, if nothing else, that ejection seats and a long life are not mutually exclusive. Martin Baker was not the first to develop ejection technology. Germany's Helmut Schenk made the first ever emergency ejection on the 13th of January 1942 from a Heinkel He-280 using a compressed air seat. The Heinkel HE-219, also in 1942, became the first production aircraft fitted with ejection seats. Sweden's Bofors developed a gunpowder seat for the Saab 21 in 1943. These were real achievements and deserve recognition. But Martin Baker's approach was fundamentally different in one respect that proved decisive. The Germans and Swedes built ejection mechanisms, ways to get a pilot out of the cockpit. Martin built a complete integrated escape system. The seat, the harness, the drogue parachute, the main parachute, the automatic deployment mechanism, the survival equipment, all designed as a single unit, tested as a whole, delivered as a whole. Like Tommy Flowers, whose story we told in our Colossus film, Martin thought in systems rather than components. That thinking, combined with relentless, iterative testing and a singular corporate focus, Martin Baker did nothing else, sold nothing else, thought about nothing else, made the company dominant. It remains dominant 80 years later. In June 1947, British authorities standardized the Martin Baker ejection seat for all new jet aircraft entering RAF service. The company that had never won a single production order for a fighter was now supplying the one component no jet could fly without. Martin apparently appreciated the irony. When interviewing prospective employees, he reportedly told them, "I will pay you a certain amount per week, plus whatever you can, Nick." The achievement was extraordinary. Martin Baker had gone from an outsider building rejected prototypes to the sole supplier of escape systems for the most powerful air force in the Commonwealth. And Martin did it without compromising a single principle that had made him fail as an aircraft manufacturer. He still refused to subcontract. He still ignored bureaucratic timelines. He still insisted on manufacturing virtually every component in-house, everything except parachutes, which came from GQ Limited and rocket propellant. The qualities that had infuriated the Air Ministry when he was building fighters turned out to be precisely what you wanted in the man building the device between a pilot and a closed coffin. His perfectionism bordered on the extreme. When Martin Baker built its high-speed test track at Langford Lodge in Northern Ireland, constructed entirely by company employees between 1957 and 1971, the rails were aligned to within 1/16th of an inch over 6,000 feet. That is a tolerance more demanding than most railway engineering, applied to a track used to fire seats at speeds exceeding 600 knots. More than 350 seats have been tested on it since. He was stubbornly independent in matters of corporate survival, too. When the British government nationalised much of the aircraft industry, Martin Baker successfully resisted absorption. A 1941 Air Ministry report had identified the company with clinical precision. The conduct of affairs was characterized by the usual indifference to accounting detail, often found when technical men with outstanding ideas were following an ideal rather than making a profit. A company that did not care about quarterly returns could not easily be bought or bullied. The honours came slowly. The OBE in 1950, the CBE in 1957, the Royal Aero Club Gold Medal in 1964. He was knighted in the 1965 birthday honours, by which time roughly 1,000 pilots had been saved. Queen's University Belfast, whose lectures he had scorned as a young man, awarded him an honorary doctorate of science in 1969. His portrait appeared on the Northern Bank £100 banknote, the highest denomination in Northern Ireland, from roughly 1990 until the bank was rebranded in 2013. But recognition for his aircraft never came. The MB-5 was burned as scrap in 1963. No Martin Baker fighter ever entered squadron service. There is one more chapter that must be told honestly, because the audience this channel serves will know it already. On the 8th of November 2011, Flight Lieutenant Sean Cunningham of the Red Arrows was conducting pre-flight checks in a Hawk T1 at RAF Scampton. His Mark 10B ejection seat initiated accidentally while the aircraft was stationary. The seat fired. The main parachute failed to deploy. Cunningham fell roughly 200 feet, still strapped to the seat. He was 35 years old. The investigation found that an over-tightened bolt in the drogue shackle mechanism had prevented the parachute from deploying. Martin Baker had been made aware of this potential failure mode by two aircraft manufacturers in the 1990s, but had not notified the RAF. In January 2018, the company pleaded guilty to a breach of the Health and Safety at Work Act and was fined £1,100,000. The tragedy does not erase thousands of lives saved, but it is a reminder that even the most safety-driven organization can fail, and that the consequences in this business are measured in coffins. Cunningham's family called his death preventable. The judge agreed. Martin Baker has since redesigned the bolt to prevent over-tightening. Sir James Martin himself had been gone for 30 years by then. He passed away on the 5th of January, 1981, aged 87, at Southlands Manor in Denham. Within sight of the factory he had occupied since 1929. He had been coming to work throughout the 70s and never truly retired. His twin sons, John and James, assumed management in the autumn of 1979. He was buried at St. Mary the Virgin Churchyard in Denham and posthumously inducted into the International Air and Space Hall of Fame in 2004. He spent 39 years building a device that works in 2.5 seconds. He carried a notebook full of names, and he never stopped adding to it. Martin Baker remains a family company. That fact alone is remarkable in an industry where every other name, Hawker, Supermarine, de Havilland, Gloucester, Bristol, was swallowed decades ago by mergers, nationalizations, and corporate consolidation. Martin Baker survived all of it. The headquarters are still at Higher Denham, Buckinghamshire, the same site James Martin occupied in 1929. His twin sons John and James still serve as joint managing directors. His grandson Andrew runs the Ejectee Tie Club and serves as vice president of business development. 3 generations, 1 postcode, 1 mission. The numbers tell a story that Martin himself would have appreciated. He was a man who trusted concrete figures over abstract praise. More than 7,800 aircrew have been saved by Martin Baker ejection seats since Bernard Lynch pulled the face curtain over Chalgrove in 1946. Over 92,000 seats have been delivered. Roughly 16,200 are in active service today, fitted to more than 200 aircraft types, operated by 93 air forces and 117 operators worldwide. The company holds between 70 and 75% of the Western ejection seat market. Its seats are in the F-35 Lightning II, all 3 variants, the Eurofighter Typhoon, the Dassault Rafale, the Saab Gripen, the Boeing Super Hornet, the latest F-16 Block 70. The rate of saves runs at roughly 45 to 80 per year, spiking during conflicts. Some 700 American aircrew alone were saved during the Vietnam War. The Ejectee Tie Club, founded by Martin in 1957, has over 6,000 registered members, pilots who survived by ejecting on a Martin Baker seat. Each receives a distinctive tie bearing the red triangle ejection seat warning symbol, a tie pin, a fabric patch, a personalized certificate, and a membership card. They can also purchase a Bremont wristwatch engraved with their membership number, the first watch to undergo live ejection seat testing. It is a peculiar and rather wonderful fraternity. The entry requirement is simple. You had to have been falling out of the sky in a machine that was about to end your life, and a device built in Denham had to have stopped that from happening. The only serious competitor in the Western world is Collins Aerospace, which manufactures the Aces series of seats used in American F-15s, F-22s, A-10s, and B-1 and B-2 bombers. Collins claims roughly 713 lives saved, an impressive record, but less than a tenth of Martin Baker's total. Why does almost nobody know this story? The answer lies in Martin's own character. He was, as his authorized biographer Sarah Sharman wrote, a passionate individualist with little time for self-promotion. The company reflects the man: private, family-owned, never publicly listed, never courting publicity. Defense industry secrecy adds another layer. The result is a paradox that Martin would probably have enjoyed. The man whose invention has saved more military pilots than any single safety device in aviation history remains largely unknown to the general public. One book exists. No full-length documentary has been made until now. Captain Baker's name is still on the factory gate at Denham. Every time a pilot straps into an F-35, a Typhoon, a Rafale, or a Gripen, that pilot is sitting on a device born from one Irishman's grief, tested on another Irishman's spine, and sustained by a family that has never sold out, never merged, and never forgotten what the business is actually for. James Martin built the finest piston-engine fighter most test pilots had ever flown. Nobody bought it. He built an ejection seat. 93 Air Forces did. The notebook full of names is his monument. 2.5 seconds is his legacy.